go.
Okay, we are recording.
Okay. All right. 4:32 on June 18th, 2020, and I am going to call to order the meeting of the Waterworks Board. I'm going to do a roll call. Donnie, are you present?
Present.
Awesome. I'm present too. So I'm going to go ahead and if everybody can look at the meetings from the previous meeting, and then I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the meetings from the previous minutes from the previous meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve them.
Okay, I'll second that motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting. Okay. And then next on the agenda, we've got some old business. First is the update on the mapping of the district and infrastructure. And Rachel, what do you have for us?
I just wanted to kind of refresh everyone because it's been kind of a weird year so far, and we haven't, I mean, we had that first meeting, but Donnie, I think you were missing the first meeting. And then I do have Ryan and Justin here tonight from the water department. So I wanted to kind of get them up to date too on what we talked about at the last meeting. So the water board ordinance, or the water ordinance for this board, talks about having a map of our district, and we don't have a map for the district. And what I've learned, I guess, and Donnie, if I'm off base on this, let me know, but it's not like the electric territory where we have a district that we're only allowed to have our electric in or our water in. We can run water wherever we want. So if we have a district, our district map would only be showing where we currently have water going to.
Right, you can do something outside town limits. I know there's
Right.
two places
Yeah,
now.
but we wouldn't have to buy that territory from anyone if we extended into an area outside of town. Okay. And do you guys all see like a need for having that mapped out to say like this is where Town of Pendleton currently exists, like our water department currentally goes to?
I see a very big advantage,
Okay.
not just for these guys, but for anybody coming in to assist them.
Yeah.
Because if you have a disaster and now all of a sudden you got greenfield coming in, they're not going to know where to go.
And see, in my mind, the district mapping is a little bit different than the infrastructure mapping, because the infrastructure mapping then would dive in deeper and show like exactly where our lines are and what all the infrastructure parts and pieces are that I don't know all the terminology for, but that would all get mapped out. But I just wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page on if we do move forward with mapping this out, you know, we would do this district map, and then we'd also have the infrastructure mapping piece that I would see you guys, the employees, using on a more day-to-day basis than maybe with the district map. The district map would just be.
I know Craig, does he talk to you about the whole locate company?
Yes.
All the locates there?
Yes.
So that infrastructure map, or whatever
The district map.
district map, would help us cut down on a lot of those locates, which would save us 95 cents a locate.
Yeah.
Because we're getting some for Maple Trails and
Right.
Ingles, and we're paying for those.
Yeah.
We have nothing in that territory.
Okay.
So it would be nice to have an updated map of our territory.
Okay. So I think I will work with Justin and Ryan on if we're going to work with Banning or whomever and get an estimate on what it would cost to get all these things mapped out. And we're kind of talking about, well, I guess that's the same line item as the infrastructure mapping and the district mapping. I know the infrastructure mapping will probably be more expensive than just the district mapping. The district mapping should be fairly simple. I think we could get a list from Tracy on where our customers are and then just put that into a GIS map, and we should be able to do that in-house. But the infrastructure mapping, I think, will be more time consuming, and will, I mean, with the electric department, I know that got hired out to Banning, and Banning put that all together and took photos and whatever. And if you guys,
Electrics, they always hook up to it. We have a lot of water mains in town that don't have locate wire.
yeah,
That you really can't get a locate on it unless you actually see it.
yeah,
That's what we run into.
okay. So,
Yep.
all right, does everyone think it's reasonable then to go ahead and get cost estimates on the infrastructure mapping, and then we can make some decisions moving forward once we have,
Right, and you should have some mapping already been done.
yeah,
That will help out a bunch too.
I emailed Kayla about getting onto that ArcGIS or whatever, but
Uh-huh.
I haven't got anything back.
okay,
A login thing to be able to look at maps on my phone rather than my flip book and book that.
Like we used to,
8 years or 10 years.
like we used to when we logged in all the meters.
Yeah. I don't have a login for that.
okay. So we'll work on getting all of you guys set up on, so you all have access to see what's already mapped. And I think too, we have the capabilities in-house of adding to that map, so, and making changes to that map. It'll just be, I guess, your guys' decision on who you want to have access to that. Like if it's just Justin, or if Justin and Ryan, and if you guys want to add Zane, you know, just however you want to handle that, we can get it set up to work.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good idea.
All right. I think I have 2 people.
All right.
All right. That's all I have for the mapping though, unless anyone has anything else.
Mm.
Nope.
No? All right, we'll move on to update on the ordinance and bylaws revisions.
Okay. And on this one too, we talked about this a little bit at the last meeting. I think there's just some
Mhm.
things that need to be updated in this document. And Jeff, this is where I'm not sure if this should come from staff to you to review, or if your office would be doing these updates and then send back to us for review.
If the board and the staff have just a general description of what the changes they'd like to see, we'd be happy to either draft an amendment or do a new ordinance, depending on how wide ranging they are.
Okay. One thing that I know is probably an issue that we need to work through is that the utility rate advisory board has the authority to set the water rates, but according to this ordinance from 2015, the Waterworks board also has that authority. And so I think the board,
That's a problem.
yes, who is setting the rates here? And, you know, I think we do need to clarify what the Waterworks board is going to be doing versus, you know, what the utility rate advisory board is going to be doing. So Sammy and Donnie and Jeff, if you guys have any input on what you think is the appropriate role for this board, then I guess this is the start of that discussion.
I think it's,
Interesting.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say that I think that's super important to know where we need to draw the lines on what we're responsible for and what we're going to be doing, so we can make better decisions and not step on anybody's toes.
Right.
My opinion, the water rate board would set the water rates along with the electric rates, and we would take care of everything else that had to do with water. That's just my input.
I concur with that. That's more, the statutory scheme contemplates more of that than what's going on now.
I agree.
Yeah, and that can make a lot of sense where this board then would, in my mind, and I could be totally off base, but I guess my recommendation or suggestion would be that this board really looks at, you know, a 5-year plan for the water department and beyond, a 5-year plan and beyond, and puts together, you know, what equipment is needed, what staff changes are going to be needed, what infrastructure projects are going to be needed, and passes that information over to the utility rate advisory board, so then they can incorporate that into their rate studies to come up with the appropriate rate to help support the department.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I agree.
All right. Well, then I'll probably mark this ordinance up then, and just with some suggestions, and then send it over to Jeff. And then Jeff, maybe for our next meeting, we could have an update that the board could look at, and then we can take it over to the town council if we think it's ready.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay.
It's a great idea.
Yep.
And then the bylaws, there was just a few things within the bylaws that I think we needed to look at, like the regular meeting date was never filled out. It talks about having an annual meeting the first day in January of each year, which I think at the last meeting we all agreed that we didn't need to do it the first day in January. We could do it just the first regular meeting date scheduled for January. Unless you see an issue with that, Jeff. Then
No. Just sometime in January would be good.
yeah.
Okay.
So again, unless anyone has any other input on the bylaws, we can just make some minor updates to that and then pass those at our next water board meeting.
Sounds good.
Okay. And the bylaws, Jeff, that just gets done by the water board. That wouldn't have to go to council or anything, correct?
No, that's our own rules, so we can do whatever we want on that.
Okay. Okay.
All righty. Well, then let's move on to new business. There's a discussion on restructuring the water department staff.
Yeah. Okay, so I will start this off, but then I'm going to kick it over to Justin and Ryan. They'll be able to explain this much better than I can, but I did include 2 different job descriptions that will help support what they're going to present to you tonight. I'll just turn it over from there. I'm stumbling. So actually Ryan and they had both approached me about kind of restructuring this because they have some needs that they think are not being met, and that this would help the department run a little more smoothly than what it has in the past. And so I thought it was a good idea and thought we should talk about it tonight so we can start working in that direction. So if you guys want to go ahead and.
Sure. So what our plan is to not necessarily divide the water company. We're still all going to be one. We're still all going to work water lease and everything. It's going to be where I'm over water treatment and Ryan would be over distribution. So anything distribution calls, people need whatever out in the distribution, they would call him. I would be in charge of sampling, all that stuff that Dewey used to do. And it would be pretty much like how you and Dewey used to do it. Dewey would do all the sampling in the water plant. You would go out in the distribution. It'd be that same thing, except we each have a title. It wouldn't just be, everything wouldn't just come back to one person. If there was a mistake on the treatment side, that would be on me. If there was a mistake in distribution, that would be on him. But it would I think it would help us to get out faster to people rather than me having to jump on my phone for, 4 hours because I just keeps getting calls and this and that. We'd be able to focus ourselves a little bit better.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. That's kind of what we did. I know I'm just trying to compare a little bit and explain what we did with the planning department because Kayla and I basically did something similar where for planning, there was one position that everything went to and it became too much for one person to handle. So we split it off and split it into current planning and long range planning. So I do more of the long range stuff. She does the current planning. And then, like you said, people are able to get to who they need to talk to faster to get answers because we know who is in charge of more specific things. So, but we still know what goes on each side of that. It's not like, right, if someone called and had a question, you could still help. Right.
It's not like, well, your distribution.
Right. Yeah.
And we hope it can help us acquire more people also.
Mhm.
We can split it up, then we can also cross-train, maybe work with, one of them can work with Justin, one of them can work with me, and then we can come and switch them off before they go do their testing.
Mhm.
In case, one of us is gone, the other one can back us up for something simple, but.
And one thing that I think in doing this is making sure that we do have the one person who still overall is in charge of the department. For planning, it would still be me, or it still is me. And so I'm assuming, Justin, you would still be that person that is kind of the point person at the end of the day that everything does come back to. And that's what I like about the electric department right now is electric has an electric supervisor, and then they do have like a foreman don't know, I like that structure on that side of things, which I know it's not exactly the same as you guys, which you guys have different roles that you'll be taking as that, but I think kind of thinking that through too with just future staff and how you handle all that is going to be important because we're going to grow.
So the question is, what kind of staff are we looking at? Is there anything in the budget or been talked about as far as how many more people we can get, if we can even get one more person? Has that been talked about, or?
Rachel and I had a little conversation earlier today, but I don't know what the numbers are. She doesn't know, so I can't answer that.
Okay.
But I know when I was with you guys, before you got here, there was 4 of us.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure why there's not 4 now. And
With everything coming along,
I think the
too,
minimum
we're
you
looking
guys
at
need
like 5
is
or
4.
6.
We're expanding as we speak. I mean,
Right.
New water mains going in everywhere back before it was us 4.
Right. Yeah.
And now we're down to 3.
Right.
I think you need to at least get back to 4 as quick as you possibly can. But here again, I don't know what the money is. That's kind of left up to town, but I think minimum you need is 4. And I would think here in the near future, you're gonna need 5. There's no question. Because Rachel and I were talking about how much time it takes to go out here and go through every subdivision and make sure everything's being put in correctly the way that your specs are. You're still reviewing other plans for other stuff coming in. It's only growing here and it's only gonna get bigger.
And that's not right about that, because that brings me to another point of us having each our own roles. Is because he can go out and do that inspections in the subdivisions that are coming in, and I can go do my sampling and plants and my state run stuff that I have to get done for the state. And I'm not gonna get pulled away from that, because that's what happened in the past. Is I was in the middle of back key samples and I got pulled out here and then I'm being pulled there. And I'm like,
Right.
I'm being pulled 14 different directions.
Right, and back these samples are on a time frame too. So once you start, you've got 2 hours to get it done.
I
So
focus on that.
absolutely, and I think dividing a couple up on each way, I think it's a great idea. That's basically what we did before.
Yeah, except now we need a title.
A title.
Like this is like what somebody calls me for a distribution question. I'd be like, well, you need to call Ryan Shears. Here's his card or whatever. And that's who's overseeing that.
Yeah.
And then he can make the decision.
Right.
Because with our other water plant, I mean, our samples have doubled. I mean, we used to take 20 lead copper, now I'm taking 40. I got to take another 40 the next 6 months. And I mean, I've got every order, I've got to take rats, I've got to take nitrate, I've got to do all that stuff. All that stuff goes on.
Mm-hmm.
And there's more sampling that's going to be coming.
Yeah, as our population goes up, who knows what's going to be coming. Our sampling could triple.
And then all of that, just knowing these things, when we are doing a plan for the department, being able to then kick that over to the utility rate advisory committee so that they can make a decision on, or they can factor all that information into their rate study to make sure that we are still making money, or we're making enough money to then, or we can at least plan when those rates are going to have to go up even. If there's a point where we know at whatever level we're going to have 3 more people join the department, then we can plan for that and not have it be such a shocker whenever that rate has to go up. We could do it more incrementally than
The 110% or 112% we did years ago.
yeah.
I think if we did have another person, that would benefit us greatly. Because like Ryan said, you could have one at him, I have one at me. I could show them how to do sampling or whatever, or at least run the plants and make sure everything. And I could go out and do sampling, or they could go out and do sampling, and they can make sure the plants are everything. But somebody can stay back, and rather than me being by myself.
Which also help in water leaks. So you've got the safety guy on the ditch, you've got the 1 or 2 guys in the hole, where if that 3rd person has to go get a part, that leaves you 2 in there. So now somebody has to get out, and you really need 2 people in that ditch. But to be safe, you've got to have 1 person as your safety. So yeah, I think the minimum you need is 4 right now.
So then maybe we can do some homework with Linda on seeing, what is, where we're at.
We'd really like to have a breakdown of the budget as far as the whole, I know I think they have 3 different budgets laid out for the water department. We would like to see them all and know where we're at.
Yeah.
Be able to make educated decisions when we're trying to get, acquire tools or trucks or whatever.
Right. Okay. Sammy, do you have any thoughts or questions?
I think that's a good start. I liked all the input, so we at least have somewhere to start with that. So we'll just have to coordinate and keep moving. So it's just going to take a little bit of work and a little bit of planning, but I do appreciate all the input. It was all good.
Okay.
So, unless somebody else has a comment on that, on the water department staff. No, then we'll move forward and talk about the discussion on partnership with Fall Creek Regional Waste District.
Yes.
What are we thinking? What are we thinking on this?
Okay, so I got a letter from Jerry Kelly, and at first I told him maybe we wait a minute until we get the town manager in place, and then after I was thinking about it, I said, well, we should probably just start the discussion now so we can get it done sooner than later, because I think it's kind of a no-brainer.
It is a no-brainer.
Thanks, Donnie.
And Sammy, this is what used to happen when I was running it. Anytime they would do a sewage turn-off, you've got to turn off the water because there's no way to get rid of the water. So
Right.
that's just part of being that partnership.
Right. Understood.
And I just want to read, because Tracy, I think you would probably have some input on this. So Jerry Kelly, I'm just going to read this in case there was another phone person that was called in, but currently when we have to disconnect a customer service, we hire a contractor to dig down to the tap at the main line and physically disconnect the cap and lateral line. This process is destructive, disruptive, and expensive. In many areas, the point of disconnection is under streets, sidewalks, or alleys. After disconnection, we notify the Madison County Board of Health, and they can condemn the property. In order to reconnect service, the customer must pay the delinquent account in full, pay the cost of the disconnection, and pay someone to reconnect their line. When this happens, it is our last option. We go through a lot of effort to avoid physically disconnecting a customer service. We would prefer to partner with the town and have the customer's water turned off instead of physically disconnecting the lateral. We would pay the town for your time and effort to turn off the water and then to turn it back on once the customer has paid their delinquent account. So I guess as staff, do we have any issues with that as staff?
I think it makes a lot more sense than having to dig up a street or an alley to be able to do that. Then now you've got that repair. And it's never going to be the same.
Yeah.
So what's going to be the count of us turning off water and turning back on water? I mean, do they have a lot of these disconnects that end up like throwing underneath the desk? And is this going to make this more prominent to where they don't put it off for so long? They just say, oh, go turn off the water. So, I mean, are we going to be running around rampant, shutting people's water off and then turning it back on?
I can't imagine that, but we can ask, maybe monthly or yearly how many would
There's a
be.
local contractor that's been doing them, and there's not really many
That's fine. I just want to make sure
that I know of.
before we agree to it that we're not going to be running rampant, turning off and turning on water all day.
Something that we can handle.
Right now, our shut-off rate's $20, and then $20 for recon.
That doesn't even cover your 2-hour
Yeah.
overtime.
That
So,
Probably definitely
need to-
need to adjust it.
yeah, we need to look at that.
Yeah, I'd make it high enough that when they have to pay it, they're not gonna like it, maybe.
Won't do it again.
Well, and it says, so a possible disadvantage would be that you might receive a phone call from the disconnected customer. We would recommend that you refer them to us when they call. So this wouldn't necessarily be, I don't know, I guess how.
Well, as long as we knew, which we would, are we gonna apply, who's gonna apply the charge?
I think they would apply the charge from what I'm understanding.
And then,
And then they would Fall Creek Regional Waste would then reimburse us for the time and
So
effort.
we probably wouldn't even apply a charge.
Right. That's what I'm thinking.
We just have to know.
Yeah.
So that when we got a phone call.
Yeah.
We would know where to direct.
Right. And would we be able to notate that just in
Yeah.
the account and
Yeah.
then, okay.
I think you need to make sure you got your rate covered, you know, still charge them X amount of dollars during work hours, but make sure you're getting Ryan or whoever's rate covered,
Mm-hmm.
not just, hey, we'll go out here and reconnect for $20. Now the town's out more money.
Yeah. So we would be billing Fall Creek Regional Waste, whatever this chart, like for your time and for their time out in the field to do this. So,
And are you gonna do after hours or? would it-
Yes, you'll have to have an after-hour charge
Okay.
because people won't be home by 4 o'clock sometimes. As the same way with the light department, they do shut off. So.
Or after hours is 40 right now.
Does anyone cover overtime?
No, this is minimum 2-hour overtime.
and is that in the ordinance, those rates right now, Tracy?
I would say yes. I've never found them, but I think all of this is somewhere. I didn't probably, I printed it off, but I didn't read them all like this.
Okay. So maybe that's another piece of all this for this board to tackle is just an ordinance update so that our rates and what we're charging is accurate. So then we can tell Fall Creek Regional Waste. We don't, because I wouldn't think we'd want to tell them, yes, let's go ahead with this and then give them one rate and then bump it up and say, now we're going to charge
Yeah.
this. Like, let's get it right in the first place. Yeah, let's get our ducks in
I
a row.
agree.
Okay.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we'll find out from Fall Creek Regional Waste about how many per year that they think we would be doing, and then we need to look at our rates and if we have to do an ordinance update. And we need to do an ordinance update on the rates anyway, if regardless.
We need to look at all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. Unless anyone has any other questions or thoughts on that, I think that takes care of that.
I think so.
Okay.
Okay.
I agree. All right, and then the last item is the water loss audit and validations update. Rachel?
Yes. So I had gotten an email from, this is all new to me, so if you guys know, have more knowledge on this than I do, please speak up. But I did have one of the consultants that we work with reached out and said, hey, do you have anyone working on your water loss audit and validations? And I was like, hey, Justin, I don't know what this is. Do you? And so Justin has dug into it a little bit, and I looked into it a little bit as well. And from what I've learned, and if I'm off, please let me know, but the legislature enacted SEA 4 in 2019, which obligates water utilities to complete annual water audits. And then every other year, it has to be validated by a certified third-party water audit validator. And other than that, I don't know a lot about it. And if we need to move forward with doing that this year, Justin, I think you had mentioned at some point that these were typically due August 1st. And when I was looking on the website today from the Indiana Finance Authority, it was saying that that's been extended now through January because of COVID-19. So we have some extra time to do that.
Water loss is pretty much just what you bill versus what you figure it out. What are all your extra water to a percentage of water that's lost, and we really like to do that 16%.
Yeah, something like that. The DNR has a report that he has to do every year also. So this is a new.
I just did that. I got an email on it, and I obviously missed it. Yeah. So I got it done.
So is this something that falls more under like Tracy's side of this, or is it more on?
She'll have to work with you.
Yeah, she'll have
Okay.
to give me 2019 how much we built.
It'll,
And I'll know how much we pumped in 2009. And then we can compare there, and then we're gonna have some for water main breaks and the average water that's out there that we don't know about.
Okay.
So,
And then if we have a fire, I would just always contact him and say, hey, we used X amount of gallons, so he marks that down.
Okay. So did we do this in 19? Do you know if we did it in 19? Or would this be the first year that we would have?
I think,
I mean,
this,
I did the DNR.
I think this is the first year for
This
this.
is,
For
this
this?
is, yeah, this is the
Okay.
first year that you have to have it validated.
Okay.
Because I always do the DNR every year, like March 31st, and that just gives them an overview of how much we pumped in 2019. We have any new wells or whatever they had. I had to do it for both ones. So they know how much we pumped.
Okay.
But now they're just wanting to see what our water loss is.
So who validates, who's the third party that validates this?
It has to be certified now. You have to go to a class, validation, water audit class, and get certified to be able to.
Is this something that we can certify our own, or do we always, well, I guess if it's a third
Third
party,
party, you have to have
yeah, someone else
else.
do it.
Which-
So we did, Justin, you were reaching out to Banning maybe
I
and
emailed
Commonwealth?
Commonwealth and Banning this morning.
Okay,
I have not heard back from them.
okay.
As soon as I do, then
What about Jamie
I'll.
at Carmel? Because she came over and did the wellhead protection for us
Okay,
to get wellhead protection in phase 1 where it was supposed to be.
all right.
So, and I
So
know
we'll
she
get,
has a lot of knowledge in that. And she's always going to class, so that might be a person readily available.
okay. So yeah, as staff, we'll just get some estimates and see, you know, who gives us the best quote, and then we can move forward on getting this done.
I downloaded the software the other day, because from the AWWA, they'll give you the free software download. I was looking through it. It's kind of mind-boggling. So,
Yeah. Is there training that we should be doing as staff for this in particular? Or is it something that we can just do every other year, but then the year that we have to get the third party?
Validated.
Yeah.
So,
Okay,
I mean, we can do training, or we can go to some classes or whatever, and figure out how to do it. But we still have to get it validated.
somewhere.
Somebody else might be able to help you, Neil McKee at Anderson. You're friends with him too, so.
Okay,
A couple of people on the job.
all right. Okay, well, we'll
Okay.
we'll keep working on that. That was just one of those weird ones where, yeah,
There's a lot, and there's a lot more rules and regulations coming out. Brian and I just talked earlier today about the new lead and copper rules that you've got to go to class for. So,
Okay.
overall, I think it's
Well,
exciting because I was telling Donnie earlier, you know, this board really has the opportunity to step up and really help craft how this department is going to grow and move forward, along with staff, of course. But, you know, there's just so much going on in Pendleton right now with the addition of subdivisions and all of it. It's, we got a lot of work to
I'm kind of
do.
excited to be part of this because I've seen it starting lowest man, working myself up to where these guys are at now. And I think there's a lot of room to grow. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's a great idea.
mhm.
You got two great operators sitting right here, and you need to make sure that they need it. You need to make sure they get what they need.
Agreed.
Awesome.
All right.
Is there any more input on any of the new business or anything that we've discussed so far? Anybody have any additional comments?
I just have one. Donnie had mentioned that the July 16th meeting may not work out for him, so maybe we can discuss a different meeting date that would work for everyone.
Sure.
Let me look at town calendar too for July, because we do have a lot of meetings that happen in this room. So the next scheduled meeting is July 16th. Donnie would. What would work for anyone, I guess? Give me a starting date.
I would not be available the let's see, the 20. And that's a park board meeting.
22nd should be park board.
Okay, so 22nd is only one.
Okay.
The week of the 12th through the 19th, I'm gonna be gone.
What about July 29th? Well, I don't know. We actually start court that day, and so I'm not sure when they'll be done because it will be the first court that they have and have had since March. So that may not work. Or we could skip July's and just go to our regular scheduled August meeting.
That's really up to everybody. I can be flexible on mine. I'm not, July is fine for me, so it's whatever we can. And do we want to skip a meeting with a couple of these things that we're talking about,
I think if
especially like the bylaws? Hmm.
I think if we can meet, we probably need to meet, even if it's
I agree.
quick. The 7th and I will be out, but other than that, just that middle week, I'm pretty much available for everything else.
Rachel, what's going on Thursday the 9th?
Thursday the 9th is town council.
Oh, that's right.
I'd prefer we steer clear from that one. It's usually a busy day. And Thursday the 23rd, we could do that if we did the 4:30 like we usually do.
I'm good with 4:30.
4:30.
4:30,
4:30 fine.
23rd.
Yes. Are we in hopes that we'll be in face-to-face by then?
I think so. And Sammy, we're going to continue hosting these on Zoom through the rest of the year, just in case the public doesn't feel comfortable coming in. But if you feel comfortable attending the meeting, you're more than welcome to. I should have made that more clear in emails and stuff.
Oh, you're fine.
Yeah. So any of the meetings that are coming up that you're invited to, you are more than welcome to show up in person.
Okay.
We do have masks and things. So if you do feel like you want to wear a mask, bring one, or we have some that you can have here. But or if you
Awesome.
want to continue calling in, that's perfectly fine too.
Oh, I think I can venture in. I think so. Unless anybody has anything else to add for tonight's meeting, we'll agree on the date of July 23rd at 4:30 p.m. for the next Waterworks board meeting. And then I will make a request for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
We probably need to have Jeff swear me in.
Oh, good idea. Yes.
And Jeff, do you
That's
want
kind of important.
to do that tonight, or should we do that in person? You're on mute. Oh wait, did I mute you? No.
Well, I'm here now. We can do it now.
Okay.
That's fine. Just raise your right hand, please. A second here. Let me grab it.
Okay.
All right. Your right hand raised.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. I say your name.
I, Donnie Meyer,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
and the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
as well as the ordinances of Madison County
as well as the ordinances of Madison County
and the town of Pendleton,
and the town of Pendleton.
and that I will faithfully,
I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and diligently
and diligently
discharge the duties of the office of Waterworks board member.
discharge. All right, say that again.
That's a lot of work.
I'll have to see. Yes, diligently discharge the duties
diligently discharge the duties
of the office
of the office
of board member
board member
of the Town of Pendleton Waterworks Board,
of the Waterworks Board for the town of Pendleton,
according to law
according to law,
and to the best of my ability.
best of my ability.
Awesome, that's done. I will send you a copy to sign, then I'll notarize it and we'll get it filed with the clerk treasurer.
Okay.
Great.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Ryan's got
Okay.
one thing before we.
Awesome.
Real
Go
quick.
ahead, please.
We would like the board to review about getting some new trucks, service trucks for the water department. We're down to, basically, we have 2 trucks that we can use all the time. One of them is pretty bad shape. It's running into the point of, street department's been using ours. We just need to get our own equipment so we can be more efficient and not be hunting trucks all the time.
Okay.
We have a 2014, which is the one Justin drives, which is a nice one. And then we have an 08 and an 01.
And our 08's used for whoever's on call.
Yeah, it's the only
That's the
call truck.
on-call truck that everyone takes on.
Okay.
And it's rough.
And there's hole in the floorboard.
The floorboard,
underneath the
I-
driver's seat.
yeah,
You
you
can
showed
see
me
the,
that.
you can see the ground.
Okay.
Awesome.
So we need to discuss that as far as cost and everything. Do we have an idea of cost or anything?
I can get a quote put together for you and I can email it to
That'd be
Donnie.
great. Yes, that'd be great. Let's do that first and then we can talk,
Okay.
discuss.
Sound good?
Does anybody else have anything?
I don't believe I do.
Okay.
Nope, I think we're good.
All right, everyone. I'm gonna ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, I second the motion. Meeting adjourned. Everyone have a good night.
Thank
You too.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.